Children, let's start our English class. In the previous class, we learned about the letter which is written by Jawaharlal Nehru to his daughter Indira. Let's read the continuation of that letter. You will, I hope, soon begin to learn how to read this story from the rocks and mountains. Imagine how fascinating it is. Every little stone that you see lying on the road or on the mountainside may be a little page in nature's book and may be able to tell you something if you only knew how to read it. To be able to read any language, Hindi or Urdu or English, you have to learn its alphabet. So, also you must learn the alphabet of nature before you can read her story in her books of stone and rock. Even now, perhaps you know a little how to read this. If you see a little round, shiny pebble, does it not tell you something? How did it get round and smooth and shiny without any corners or rough edges? If you break a big rock into small bits, each bit is rough and has corners and rough edges. It is not at all like a round, smooth pebble. How then did the pebble become so round and smooth and shiny? It will tell you its story if you have good eyes to see and ears to hear it. It tells you that once upon a time, it may be long ago, it was a bit of rock, just like the bit you may break from a big rock or stone with plenty of edges and corners. Probably it rested on some mountainside. Then came the rain and washed it down to the little valley where it found a mountain stream, which pushed it on and until it reached a little river. And the little river took it to the big river, and all the while it rolled at the bottom of the river, and its edges were worn away. Thus the rough surface was made smooth and shiny. So it became the pebble that you see. Somehow the river left it behind and you found it. If the river had carried it on, it would be have smaller and smaller, till at last it became a grain of sand and joined its brothers at the seaside to make a beautiful beach where little children can play and make castles out of the sand. If a little pebble can tell you so much, how much more could we learn from all the rocks and mountains and the many other things we see around us? Nehru tells his daughter about, I have hope you will definitely begin to learn how to read the story from the rocks and mountains. Imagine, it is very interesting. Every little stone that you see lying on the road or on the mountainside may be a little page in nature's book. In the previous class, we discussed that in the old times there were no books. So, we read the story of the earth from the nature itself. So, nature itself is a whole book. So, even the rock or the mountains may be a little page in that book, so that each page can tell you something about that story. There is no language for the nature. You be able to read any language, Hindi or Urdu or English. You have to learn its alphabet. So, also you must learn the alphabet of nature before you can read her story in her books of stone and rock. But it is compulsory to know a little how to read this or how to read the story of the earth in the nature. If you see a little round shiny pebble, what was that feature? You know that it's round, smooth and shiny. They have any corners or rough edges. How could it become like that? If you break a big rock into small pieces, each pieces have rough and corners and rough edges. It is not at all like a round smooth pebble, isn't it? Then how did the pebble become so round and smooth and shiny? Each pebble have a story to tell you about their evolution. Once upon a time, the pebble also liked the big rock. From that rock, it break into small pieces. At that time, they have two edges and corners. Probably it rested on some mountain side. Then after that, it washed, rained, a little valley where it found a mountain stream, which pushed it and on the till reached a little river. And at last it rolled at the bottom of the river and its edges were worn away. By the depreciation of rolling, it became the smooth, shiny pebble. And the river left it behind you. If the river carried it on, it would have become smaller and smaller. And it became a grain of sand and joined its brothers at the seaside to make a beautiful beach where little children can play and make castles out of the sand. When the river carried that pebbles with them, it became smaller and smaller and it became the sand which we can see in the beach side, where the children can play and make castles out of the sand. We can see in the beach side, the children can play with that sand and can make castles. Nehru says that to his daughter, if a little pebble can tell you so much, how much more could we learn from all the rocks and mountains and the many other things we see around us? We can see the pebble is a very little thing. So, such little thing can tell you this much. What about the rocks and mountains and many other things we see around us? Children, let's discuss the activities. The first activity, I am afraid I can only tell you very little in these letters of mine. What does the expression I am afraid mean? Choose the best option from those given below in the box. There are three options. First one, Nehru is afraid to tell something. Second one, Nehru feels that Indira will be frightened. And the last one, Nehru is doubtful whether his letter will not be sufficient to provide complete information. Children, let's find out the answer from that option. The second activity, Nehru tells the story of a pebble. Read it. This is a story about the pebble you have read in the letter. There is once upon a time long ago, the stone was a bit of rock with plenty of edges and corners, etc. So read the story and imagine that pebble is telling its own story to you. How would be the story? You may begin like this. Once upon a time, long ago, I was a bit of a rock with plenty of edges and corners. Probably I rested on some mountainside. Complete the story by using I and my. The third activity, the present world faces many threats. It is our duty to protect the nature. Imagine that your school nature club is organizing an awareness program to protect nature. Prepare a speech for the occasion. There is a box, and from that box, you can see some features of a speech. You can use that hints in order to prepare that speech. The last activity was editing. After reading the story of a pebble, Harida, a student of class 6, attempted to write the story of a tree. But there are some errors. Help her to edit the story. The underlined word is some error. So let's rewrite that word. That means rewrite the underlined word with the correct answer.